people have been complaining for years that Twitter is not doing enough to control its troll situation. There's a lot of harassment, a lot of accounts that are just straight up just for abuse, and they've seen a lot of flack for this. So they've decided to roll out new protections against the trolls, and they're going to add a hateful conduct reporting function very soon. It will be rolled out to everyone and hopefully address all the issues with the platform.
Well, okay. So I actually feel bad for Twitter because I think that it's a hell of a thing to control, and it's got a lot of pitfalls on all sides. And so if you lean towards permissiveness, well, then there's crazy stuff all over. And so, for example, there's some chance that some folks have said not some great stuff about me on Twitter.
No, surely not.
No, I know that comes as a great shock to everybody on the internet. I don't mind any of that stuff. But then there's the stuff where there's guys who are pointing guns at me, and they take a picture of that, pointing a gun at my picture, obviously. Or a guy who today would say, oh, for my birthday, I wish that Cenk would get run over by an 18-wheeler, and yada, yada. And then there's the doxing. So to me, there is a line, and the doxing is a clear line, right? That's not a question. Threats of violence, if they are specific enough, not stupid stuff like I'm going to kick your ass, whatever. That's just, and you got to remember a lot of these trolls are kids.
Yeah.
So it's like a 14-year-old, like, I'm going to kick your ass, man. I think you're brown. Yeah. Right? She's like, I don't care about any of that. So, but it's gotten out of control for the Leslie Jones of the world, et cetera.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you crack down too much, well, where do you draw the line on what's hateful conduct? Because a lot of people
I can read it to you.
What's that?
I can read it to you.
Well, okay, so let's read theirs and let's see if they drew the line at the right place. Because, if you got a lot of people really, really disagree, and they do it in a loud and vociferous way on Twitter, and I think that's okay. I think that's part of political speech. All right, let's see where they drew the line.
Our hateful conduct policy prohibits specific conduct that targets people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or disease. Today we're going to giving you a more direct way to report this type of conduct for yourself or for others whenever you see it happening. This will improve our ability to process these reports, which helps reduce the burden on the person experiencing the abuse and helps to strengthen a culture of collective support on Twitter.
Yeah, well, if they impose these similar rules on YouTube, then it's going to be unfortunate there won't be any comments on it, because I think Twitter's like the minor leagues in comparison to YouTube comments.
YouTube knows they have a comment problem too. I don't know how they could ever possibly fix it.
No, I understand that, but I'm going to go against what you guys think on this. I think that in a way it's silencing. I understand it. There's going to be problems with people taking it way too far. It's a problem when it comes to people feel like, especially in this current climate, where they feel like they've got the ability to say what they want. The president does things that they think are okay. The president stands by ideals that they think they can go forward and say, and it's not just in the US, but all over the world. But I think there's also an upside to places like Twitter, where you can interact, maybe change someone's perception, maybe get them more engaged in politics.
There's some people you just can't, though. Like, if they're going to say, oh, you're a nigger, you're not going to change them.
I understand
that's just a point of hatred, and it's just there only to say these terrible things and to make people feel scared, threatened.
Yeah, and that's why I think
there's no positive.
There's already things put in place where you can mute those people, where you can block them or remove them from your timeline. Like I just feel like when we see the Milo situation where he was kicked off of Twitter, it just gave, I feel like, right-wing conservatives more validation that we are becoming too sensitive on the left and that they can't go forward and say certain things when, I don't agree with what that guy was saying. Some of the things that he was saying directing towards Leslie Jones, as you mentioned, she's come under a lot of scrutiny. So I'm not speaking for Leslie Jones. I think she's got a valid point with the treatment that she faces. But I feel like Trump is a clear example that we're not engaging enough in each other. And I think that Twitter is a platform where you got to find a balance. I understand there's going to be people out there that have to be held accountable for racist comments, for just really vicious attacks. But at the same time, I feel like as soon as you start to go towards that area, you're going to start pushing further and further people that are going to maybe silence their own thoughts, keep them internal in a way, and then speak out through voting and feel like that's their way of speaking out for their thought process. I think we're thinking of two different
things, because I'm not saying if you disagree and you have, an alternative conservative view, you should be outlawed and banned and never speaking again. I'm talking about the people who are only using this to hurt other people for no good reason. If it's just hate speech, absolutely this should be stopped.
Yeah.
And there's all this like hiding behind, oh, you can't handle what I have to say. But what you have to say is pointless. It doesn't have a bearing in any political sphere. It's just hatred. It exists for no other purpose than to intimidate and scare and hurt. I'm tired of people hiding behind saying, oh, this is free speech. That is not what free speech is for. That is not what it's intended to do. It's to protect you from the government, not for you to call, everyone whatever racial slur you want on any platform.
I agree, Kim, but I just feel like how much more clear of an example have we got right now that we don't engage enough in each other? And I understand that there's a limit. I'm not condoning people that are being racist on Twitter or being sexually abusive or anything else. I'm just saying that I think we have a clear example and a problem, especially with youth at the moment, where a lot of liberals are just crowding themselves around with liberals that are like-minded and not understanding that in order to try and reach some sort of consensus, again, we need to start talking with people on the other side. And yeah, that doesn't mean that you're going to engage with someone who's being racially abusive to you on Twitter. No means at all. But if you look at their policies here, like when you start to go down in your national origin, so someone comes on and says to me, you're just a Scottish twat, you have no idea what US politics is about. Is he going to be banned and I can't have an option to go in and maybe try to sway his opinion a little bit more so? Maybe try to get him. That I'm not a Scottish twat, that I'm actually handsome, you missed that out in there, but I get it. But it's like, I feel like
you and I have gotten different levels of abuse.
No, I understand.
I'm
not speaking for all those people.
Slurs, and it is, I will not engage with you if you do that. You're not worth my time.
Okay, so now I think there's some clear lines, and then I think there's a lot of haziness. So threats of violence, boom, you're gone. And look, here's another clear thing you've got to understand and get through your head. Twitter is not the government. It can ban any speech it likes. It's a private platform, and if you're a conservative, you should respect private property rights, right? So Twitter owns this platform, and if they don't like the way that you're conducting yourself, they're allowed to ask you to, in essence, leave the premises, okay? Or in this case, obviously their platform. So don't conflate those two things. You're totally wrong about that. Now, what should be Twitter's policy? Well, I lean in a free speech direction, but that's like my opinion, man. And so as we all are, giving our opinion on what Twitter should do, but they get to make the final call. As Kim points out, if they're uncomfortable with the guys going around using the N-word, and they find that not constructive, right? Yeah. Well, they get to make that call and say, okay, well, and here they're not saying they're going to kick people out. That's why it's a vague policy. They're just saying, don't do that. We don't know what the consequences of don't do that are. If I was running Twitter, I don't know what I'd do about banning people for the N-word. I probably wouldn't do it. I probably wouldn't ban them. Now, so look, because it's so hard to draw the line. So let's talk about me again, okay? Because I like to talk about it.
I was going to say, please.
So there's a lot of guys out there who call me brown, right? So over the weekend, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he pointed out something that I hadn't thought of, which is really interesting. One we already know. They say that because they think it's a slur. I don't think it's a slur at all. So what? I'm brown. So what, right? And they think, I got you, because they assume that everybody's as racist as they are. Hence, if I point out that you're brown, well, obviously that makes you inferior. Okay, wrong again, Bob. Don't care at all, right? But this is a second reason. That way, if I talk about Black Lives Matter, or I talk about standing up for Latinos, Muslims, or whoever it might be, well, it invalidates your opinion because you're already brown. So you're not neutral, you're biased. So of course you're going to defend other brown people. So that's like this secret, and I don't know that they're even sophisticated enough to understand that, but that's another way of attacking you and invalidating your opinion. But I don't want to ban that because I am brown. It's factual, right? Yeah. So I don't view that to be a slur, but then some people could view it that way because you know what their intent is, right? And then there's the range. I'm thick-skinned. Other people are not as thick-skinned as I am. So if they got all the insults that I got over and over again, they might be very, very bothered by that, right? And then there is the level of insults that Leslie Jones got. So look, there's the clear lines on doxing, physical threats. Yeah, you're goners. No private enterprise is going to let you do that on their platform. That's insane. when you get into the slurs and the speech, and a platform like Twitter where people are supposed to exchange, I think it's really hard. So I have sympathy for Twitter that it's not an easy thing to figure out. And we have our range of opinions here. But one thing it isn't, as Kim pointed out, she's 100% right. Twitter is not the government. They can restrict your speech any way they like. If you don't like it, hey, you know, all the conservatives and libertarians, go use another platform. We need independent media to make sure that we hold corporate media accountable. The people that can make that happen is you. You make the Young Turks possible. tytnetwork.com/join. Join us. Be the revolution.